And welcome, Hoosier Nation, to our 41st episode of the Hoosier Sound, where our show has one main goal to give you our perspective of IU sports from the point of view as a student or young adult. In addition, we will also give our view on hot takes from around the world of sports. We are recording this edition on Tuesday evening, June 19th, where I am your host, Noah Freeman, and I am with my usual co-host, Matthew Lukens. Normally, we'll be going live every Tuesday evening at 8:30 p.m., but if you miss us live, you can subscribe to various networks so you can listen on your own time. All you got to do is search for the Hoosier Sound wherever you listen to your podcast, and it should come up right there. Check out our Twitter and Facebook at the Hoosier Sound and subscribe. All of our information is in our brand new updated thehoosiersound.com. If you guys haven't checked it out, it's a lot friendlier. It looks nicer. There's a lot more features with it. You can watch our live stream at our website. So if you just want to watch the live stream, you don't have to go through all the YouTube stuff. Just go to our website and then just click play right there and you can watch us. You can go to our previous shows, look at all of our stuff. It looks pretty cool. It's in the beginning stages of just its version. So if there's any bugs, just let us know and we'll fix those, that beta version. But all right, Hoosier Nation, it is time for some sports talk. Matt, to start out, what is your monumental monologue for this past week in IU sports?
Monumental. Wow. You're just going to come out with the adjectives that start with M for my monologue now?
Yep.
Okay. Fair. So for IU sports this week, how can we not talk about the role that Indiana football is on?
Today.
How can we talk about this?
Basically just today.
I wake up every morning to Coach Allen tweeting Leo, and then I have to go and look and scroll through all the writers to see how many recruits we've gotten in the morning.
And it's not even that IU football, that even the Twitter account itself, like today after, which we'll get to, after their fourth commit of just today, all they tweeted was the emoji with the grin on its face, and that's it. So
right.
You got to do that.
They're like too many people. I'll leave me worrying about us over-signing for later, but I'm completely and utterly excited. And it's not like we're getting nobodies.
Can you oversign in football? Is that a thing?
Yes, you can oversign in football. That is a thing. You can have too many people offered scholarships and not enough scholarships.
But I wonder when the last time IU football thought about oversigning.
I don't know, but they might want to try it sometime. We could use all the talent we could get. But, yeah, no, I think we're getting the right guys. A lot of defensive guys, as I've seen, but a few wide receivers and running backs sprinkled in, and offensive linemen, I think, as well. So,
all right, that's a perfect segue before we dive too in deep. That was Matt's monumental monologue, but it's a great segue into our first topic, which we're going to go through just this whole episode. We're going to talk about recruiting, both in football and basketball for next year. So 2019 recruiting. And as Matt already started, and I'm going to echo his thoughts, just the football recruiting that has gone on in basically the past week. If you haven't seen, first of all, a great website to follow all of this, because football, you obviously have 100 people on a team basically sometimes to where like offering probably like football teams will offer close to 50, 60, even higher sometimes, like people. So if you want to follow all that, the 24/7 sports has a great, it's at least friendly to see that you can scroll through all of your commits, prospects, all that kind of stuff. And that's what we like to, that's where we're going to be basing a lot of our stuff off today. But what was it? I think I counted up, they had 9 of their 12 commits in the past 5 days.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think I've woken up each of the last 3 days and I've been like, wow, I've slept way too late, and gotten on Twitter. And the first thing I see is Coach Allen tweeting Leo, like, love each other. And then 1,000 different Zach Osterman and Zach Miller and the rest of them or Mike Miller, excuse me, and the rest of them just tweeting about, hey, you got this 3-star recruit from Florida, this 3-star recruit from Tennessee. And I'm like, oh, okay. Wait for me to wake up at least, please. Thank you.
And you alluded to a great point, because if you're more of a basketball person, which most IU fans, I would tend to say, are basketball fans. But if you don't follow the football recruiting as much, you might think Matt just saying, oh, there's a bunch of 3-star recruits that we just signed. And if you think basketball, for IU sports, that would not be doing very good. You'd be having sub 100, basically sub 100 level players, which is not bad. But if that's your only, that's the core of your team, you're not going to be doing pretty well. But it works a little different in football. They don't have, first of all, the 5 stars. I feel like the amount of 5 stars that they give for rankings are about the same that they have in basketball, with just the sheer number of them. They do not give out 5-star rankings almost ever in football. Like right now, Alabama, who is by far and away the top team that's recruited for next year, only has 1 5-star recruit, and they've got 14 4-star recruits. So that just shows you that 5-star recruits are hard to come by. So basically, you're going to start out with 4-star recruits as basically kind of the cream of the crop in the football world.
And football recruiting, if you're new to this at all and you're like, wow, IU football might actually be relevant, football recruiting is absolutely strange, and where you might have one guy who's ranked like number 5 in one recruiting ranking, and he'll be ranked 422nd on another one. So really, you don't look at the stars as much as you look at their measurables and where they've played. So like if they're from Florida, right, to play Florida high school football or Texas high school football, like that's going to be a lot harder than, Indiana high school football, or maybe even, I don't know, North Dakota high school football. So you just have to look at where they've played their high school football, who has offered them, and then like maybe what range of like ranking they're in. So like obviously you'd like go, oh, they're a 3-star, but then you go, they're a 3-star that's been offered by Michigan, Florida, Alabama, and Tennessee, and you go, maybe he's not a 3-star actually. So there's a lot of factors that you have to look at to see, is that actually a good recruit, or, don't take it at face value of like, oh, he's just a 3-star.
And another point with even going to 4-star recruits, just to give you another frame of reference, right now on Tuesday evening, June 19th, this obviously could change because recruiting is happening all the time. But right now, yeah, exactly. Yeah, as we can tell of today with Tom Allen and recruiting. But right now, Miami is on the 24/7 Sports, the composite rankings. They have Miami, the school, University of Miami. They're ranked number 9th in the country at the moment with recruiting, and they have 0 5-stars and 6 4-star recruits. And you think, oh, they only got 6 4-star recruits on a football team of like 100 people, but they're ranked number 9th. So you can see that basically 4 stars are still hard to come by. I was looking at it. I think they only give 4 stars to about the top 300 athletes, like a 5 or a 4-star, which if you think about it, the amount of football teams, and there's about 6 times the amount of athletes compared to basketball. Getting a 4-star ranking is doing very well. Matt, I'm going to give you a pop quiz at least, because there's obviously a lot of years I could go back to, but since at least I think about 2000, do you want to know how many 4-star recruits IU has gotten? And if you do you know who they are?
Well, we got one last year. He was a running back from Virginia. I think that's even last year.
That's correct? Debatable because last year they moved all of them down to 3-star rankings.
Okay, well, that's lovely. Thank you, 24/7.
Yep, exactly. And I'll get to that with basketball because 24/7 is interesting with Indiana sports.
I'm going to go with over or under 5 or 6 4-star recruits that IU has gotten.
At least compared to, and I'm just going on 24/7 Sports composite. They've gotten 2. Since 2000. 2. They got Dominique Booth, who was on the team from 2014-2016, and they got Darius Latham.
Okay, Darius. Okay.
Yep, and those are literally the only 2 4-star recruits that they've got. But it goes to show, let's talk about this year's recruiting. Look, we're segueing perfectly this time. Bo Robbins, if you go onto the thing, he is our top recruit that we have had since Darius Latham and Dominique Booth. That he's a weak side defensive end Also, if you go on the 24/7 Sports website, they have these weird acronyms. So when you see WDE, just click on it, and you can see what they mean by what is WDE. But he's the weak side defensive end. And he is a 4-star recruit, as we just said. And he's got also a rating of .9071. I also wanted to look at how many people were basically, and it's, oh, sorry, I am tripping over myself right now. How many people had over a .9 ranking in the past couple of years? And I actually don't remember some of the other 4-stars. I don't think there were any other, but those two were the only other guys that I could find, at least. So correct me if I'm wrong, but that I could find that was over a .9 ranking. So we had Booth was .9088 and Latham was a .9130, which also goes to show that Bo Robbins was .9071. So he's pretty high up there. His national rank is 262. His position is at 16th and 4th in the state. But if you look at the prospects and a guy that we are in for in state, David Bell, he's the 106th national rank, 18th at his position, 2nd in the state. He's a wide receiver from Warren Central. And if you know anything about high school football in Indiana, at least right now, the one thing you would know is how good Warren Central is at football. So that first shows you how good of a program David Bell is from. But he is obviously a 4-star. I would think he's actually close to a 5, no, maybe not even close to a 5-star. Yeah, because they're just so strict with those. But he has a .9513 ranking. Darius Latham, a guy who's on the Raiders right now, a guy who's been a beast, one of the best, I think the best IU recruit that we've seen in a long time, was a .9130. That's a huge difference. And Tom Allen is in the running for David Bell from Warren Central.
I mean, yeah, I would echo that sentiment that David Bell is a huge get for IU. But I think what's going to be key for us getting him doesn't actually have to do with football. If you know anything about Indiana high school basketball, you know this year that Warren Central beat New Albany on their way to winning the state title this year. David Bell was the guy who hit that running kind of floater bank shot over Romeo Langford to win the game for Warren Central. David Bell's a very good basketball player. And in fact, I'm surprised he's not on the national rankings, but he's very close to being on the national rankings. So I wouldn't be surprised if Tom Allen goes over to Assembly Hall, goes to Archie Miller's office and knocks on his door, says, Archie, please help us out here. We have this guy. He's like 106th nationally. He's the 18th best high school wide receiver in the nation. He's one of the best high school recruits to come out of Indiana in the last 5 years. He probably wants to walk on to the basketball team and play football at the same time. I feel like that would sweeten up the deal for him a little bit. I'm not saying that I have any information on this, or I'm not insinuating that this could possibly happen, but I am saying that if it were to happen, I'm sure that it would be a heck of a recruiting pitch to him.
And why not just have, first of all, that would also be that would be doable because it's just at Warren Central, so Archie wouldn't have to travel very far to actually go visit him. It's not like he'd be taking time out of his day over the summer with all of his camps and obviously just running the IU basketball team. But why not also just take Romeo with you? Be like, hey, that was a great game, and then Romeo's coming to recruit you too.
Yep. So, I mean, hey, anything is possible, as a KG once said, yelling into a microphone.
Yes, anything is possible. But let's get into the commits that we actually have so far. And let's focus on the ones at least we got today, because we talked a little bit about Bo Robbins, which committed on June 1st, so just a couple weeks ago almost. But let's start out with the first person that we got today at a recruit about 10 or so hours ago. We got Sean Ratcher, and he is a long snapper. And you're thinking, oh man, we got a long snapper as a recruit. But no, long snappers are important. If you don't have a long snapper, there are a few plays that you could turn the ball over. And
hey, special teams is important. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Long snappers get drafted.
Yes, long snappers do get drafted. That's correct. Yes,
they do get drafted. Being a Steelers fan, we drafted a long snapper last year in the sixth round.
Yeah, 6th or 7th, 8th round. That's when they usually get drafted. But yes.
Yep. And then you look at his ranking, it's like, oh wait, he's got a .7581 rating and a 2-star. Who did we just sign? Well, first of all, long snappers are not going to get very high of a ranking. So you go to his position ranking, and he is fourth. So
he's the fourth best long snapper in the country.
So looking at that, seeing we just got the fourth best long snapper in the country. Obviously, it's not something to write home about, but it's something that we didn't get no one, and long snappers are important. You do need a healthy long snapper the entire time, or bad things will happen on special teams.
That's very true. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Then we got Dorian Jones. Let me find him here for a second.
There he is, inside linebacker from the Oxbridge Academy. Hey, I know where that is.
Mm-hmm. If you didn't know, Matt lives in Florida.
Yes. If you didn't know that by now, you have not been paying attention to the show. But yes, the Oxbridge Academy happens to be 20 minutes from my house. But yes, they're very good at football.
Yep, 3-star ranking. 30th as an inside linebacker for the position. He is ranked nationally, and these players are good if they are ranked nationally, by the way. It is a good sign if they are ranked nationally. After that, so we just had a 6 foot, 220-pound inside linebacker commit today. Then we had Gary Cooper. Gary Cooper was next to fall today. He is a 3-star tight end, 6'1", from Columbus, which is not in Indiana. He is from Miami, Florida. So another Florida guy. Not nationally ranked, but tight ends are a little hard to get ranked, kind of like long snappers. They don't get as much love as other positions.
This is one of those guys I was talking about. He got offers from Michigan, UF, or University of Florida, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, and Miami. So
we just lost Matt for a second. Matt, would you like to repeat the offers that he got?
My bad. Yeah. Okay. So he had Miami, University of Florida, Oklahoma, Michigan, and Ole Miss. So this is a guy that's like getting recruited by the best of them.
The best of the best, minus Ole Miss at the moment, but typically the best of the best.
Yeah, but
yes,
football programs, they're football schools.
So. I was just giving a small jab at Ole Miss for the last year, but yes, yeah. And then like 3 or 4 hours ago or something like that, Curvins, I'm going to say his last name wrong, Curvins Bonhomme. I probably said that wrong, but another Florida guy, Bonhomme. Yes.
From Clearwater Academy, which is on the West Coast. But yeah, he's an outside linebacker. He's offered by UCF, Michigan, Nebraska. So those are good schools.
Mm-hmm. And 3-star, like I said, national ranked position, ranking 62nd. So we got some pretty hefty players just today. And then even we got a player. We got someone yesterday. We got 2 people, I think, 2 days ago, just falling down the line. We got some guards, defensive tackles. We got 1 running back. So I think running back is, on the uphill after we lost our NFL draftees every year. Yes. But I also like how Tom is also going in-state with a lot of these top commitments. You got Bo First that went to Carmel. You got Larry Tracy, who went to Decatur Central, and I thought there was another. Was there another guy that has already committed? No, there's not another guy that committed that's from Indiana. But
we're looking at a bunch of people that are.
If you look at a lot of the players that are quote unquote warm, so the guys that Indiana are in the running for, at least there are a fair amount of players that are from Indiana. So you got David Bell, like we talked about, a guy that's Cameron Williams, outside linebacker, pretty highly ranked, is from Merrillville, Indiana. And other than that, I think it's also smart that we see a lot of commitments from Florida, because if you don't know anything about high school football, that is one of the areas. I'm sure Matt could talk about this for a while. I'm sure Florida likes to think they're probably better than Texas at high school football. But yeah, see, there you go. But yes, actually, debatably, they are the best state in football, and that's why you see a lot of people dipping in there. So it's good that Tom Allen's getting around. Do you have any?
The rankings prove it. There's more 5-stars from the state of Florida than there are from the state of Texas. So.
We can just get Matt riled up real quick right there.
Oh, yep.
Have any last comments on IU football? Because obviously we can't dive into this too deeply just because there's a lot of football players that just coming in and out. It's too long to talk about, but do you have any last comments?
I would maybe like to see a signing of maybe a cornerback and maybe one or two more offensive weapons. So like a wide receiver or maybe, an athlete, because they put athlete as position, but the guy probably plays both defense and offense. Maybe like two more of those guys, just because I feel like once after this year, we're going to lose a lot of the skill positions, and having some depth there is always good. And then going off of, David Bell, who happens to be a wide receiver, if we get David Bell, he's the cherry on top of, the ice cream. He's going to be the crown jewel of this class.
He's the equivalent of Romeo for this class, basically.
Yes. So if we don't get him, I think this is still one of the best IU football classes in a very, very long time. If we get him, though, it's going to be kind of game-changing and be like, whoa, I think IU football's making moves. So
yeah, you can actually calculate, at least for 24/7, you can calculate if you add players to the team, you can see how they fare with the rankings, like how far you jump up. And if you add just a couple of those top guys, we jump all the way from right now we are ranked 30th in the country. Yep. I was about to mention that as my closing thoughts for football. Usually IU averages mid to late 40s into the 50s, usually with recruiting, but we're already at 30th. It'll probably jump down. Just knowing people that are just late with recruiting. IU football is obviously not the cream of the crop, but hopefully they'll still get the highest class that they have in a while. But if you add some of those top guys, they actually jump all the way into the teens. So that's how close IU is to, if they just get a couple of these quote unquote breakout players, they are very close to actually getting a very high ranking and almost cutting in half basically.
If IU football gets a ranking inside the teens, I don't know what I'm going to do.
They're not going to, but that's how close they're getting.
It's going to be on camera. It's going to be on the internet for a while. So
they're not going to, but actually being able to talk about that and seeing that in the possibly close future is a very positive sign. So IU football is doing great.
Coach Allen, keep doing what you're doing. You just got to start getting some marquee wins on the field, and then I think it's going to start going downhill, definitely.
And we do have Twitter questions. Yes, we'll just let Matt talk by himself for a while.
Yeah, it's okay.
We did have some Twitter questions come up, and they're football related. We usually will do them at the end, but they're football related. Excuse me. The first one, and so let's do them now. The first one we had was by Ty Keys. He asked, it's kind of a rhetorical question, but he just wanted to know: has anyone checked on Tom Allen to make sure he's not jumped too much or too high to hurt himself today, just with all of these recruit comes in? And I hope someone is checking on him.
I hope there's video of him. You know how they did the signing day? They had the videos of him watching the announcements on the live stream. I hope there was pictures of him just sitting at his desk, and every time somebody called him to tell him they was recruiting, they just he jumped out of his desk and flipped the desk. I really hope that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other question that we can talk a little more about is Respectable Adam asked us again, what 2019 #IU football commit so far do we like the most? And I think this is easy for both of us, just because the sheer, like we talked about, the stats of our 4-star and high ranking recruits. We've got the best one we've had in a while with Bo Robbins. I think I looked at a lot of his tape too. Basically, if you look at his tape, you're going to see nothing but him sacking or tackling a running back in the backfield. That's basically what he is. He's a guy that's going to find the ball. He's actually really good at even seeing, because a lot of high schools and colleges like to do option plays, so you don't know which the running back or the quarterback is going to get the ball, but he's really good at actually seeing if it's a fake or not. He gets to the backfield. He's a little slow. He runs pretty awkwardly, which is probably why he was just a little far down, getting close to the top of the recruiting boards. But that's who I am excited about and like so far.
I'm gonna go with the alternate opinion, and I'm gonna go with Gary Cooper. I'm excited for Bo Robbins, but Gary Cooper, the more I look at him and the more I watch about him, he's like 6'1", so he's kind of small for a tight end, but he's super rangy. He's got hops. So I'm really excited about him. He's got really good hands too, from what I've seen. He makes some really ridiculous one-handed catches. And his offer list makes me think that maybe we aren't crazy to think he's that good. So I'm going to go with, other than Bo Robbins, Gary Cooper is the other one that I'm super excited for.
All right. That wraps it up for our football recruiting talk. And obviously, we could probably make multiple weeks of football recruiting. Yes. But let's, even farther into our show, let's talk a little bit about basketball. We did do basketball updates a few weeks ago. But, Matt, do you have any I don't think we have enough time to go through player by player of everyone who IU has talked about. But at least in the past few weeks since we've talked last, do you have any thoughts, opinions, anything you've noticed just about IU basketball recruiting in general? Since obviously we haven't had a commit yet, but that's because the recruiting periods are about to come up, kind of like football is in right now.
Right. So I was just telling Noah this before we started the podcast. Today, I hopped on Instagram like I normally do, and I saw, because I follow Trace Jackson Davis on Instagram, I saw Trace Jackson Davis posted a story. So I went under Trace Jackson Davis's story, and I clicked on his story, and it was like, hey, shout out, follow my boy DJ Carton. He's the best.
Matt got very excited, but it didn't come through. It lagged him out again.
Well, anyways. Long story short, I was on Instagram, clicked on Trace Jackson Davis' story. He shouted out DJ Carton today and said that he was the best guard in the country, which is very high praise, by the way, because he just played on the Team USA. And to say that DJ
as
Carton,
close as it gets for 18-year-olds.
right. Almost Team USA. He played in Canada. They won. He was actually really good up there. He looked really good watching him play. But anyways, he shouted out DJ Carton today, said, hey, follow my boy. He's awesome. And then DJ Carton re-shouted him out and said, hey, follow my boy Trace Jackson Davis. He's cool. Which is awesome to see that two of the recruits that we're really focusing on happen to also be friends. And that also goes the same for Trace Jackson Davis and Keon Brooks, who were also in for two in-state 5-star guys who are like our top targets, obviously. So this is really, really exciting because I feel like we're closer to getting Trace Jackson Davis than we are almost any other recruit on this list. And if we get him, I think there's a very good chance he can bring Keon and DJ Carton with him, both of which are 5-star recruits.
Yeah. Let's do let's go down the list as much as we can. First of all, with your Trace Jackson Davis thing, obviously the predictions are not always right, but I don't think the Indiana prediction for Trace Jackson Davis has been as like 100% the entire time. So it's been pretty high up there. So a lot of experts really think that Trace Jackson Davis can go to IU. It's really hard to look at something on 24/7 Sports when a video comes up when you're talking.
Yeah, It's
very hard. It's very hard to keep your thought while something else is going through your ear.
I understand this. This is a problem. Speaking of other crystal ball predictions, I think Jamius Ramsey just got a crystal ball prediction for IU. So I think he's 80% Louisville and 20% IU. He's the if I have to remind you guys. He's a combo guard from the IMG Academy in Florida. So maybe if we don't get DJ Carton, maybe we're looking at Jamius. Jamius?
Yeah.
Jamius
Jameis.
Ramsey.
Yeah. Jameis. Yeah.
Jamius Ramsey as our second option.
Yep, and those are my dogs barking in the background. But let's go through position by position. So let's start with just point guard. Obviously, we talked about DJ Carton. I think since we've talked about him, he not only has his stock gone up, like he's jumped some, and I think he was close to getting put to a 5-star ranking. I think I saw you could see some people putting him 5 stars, some not. But he's been trending upward, and he's been trending upward in favor of IU. Right now, it's kind of it's kind of been gathered that it's just Michigan or Indiana that are basically the only two in the running, and Michigan is in it pretty heavily. But those are kind of the only two people. Then you've got someone like Trey Mann, who has just fallen off the list of IU because he just narrowed it down to his top 3. And IU is not on the list, but that's okay. Archie was not going him after as much as DJ Carton. We're just looking at other offers. Then Tyrell Terry was another guy that IU offered a little while ago, but Stanford, he committed to Stanford. And then, so basically it's kind of DJ Carton and Kira Lewis.
Yep.
That IU is really focused on for a point guard.
As point guards go. I mean,
yeah.
We still got combo guards left.
Exactly, yeah. And then you get down to combo guards. Just reading off the people that they have offered. Jalen Leck, I don't know how you say his last name. The Quee. IU's not really been involved. And some of these could also be left over from the Crean era.
Jalen was an Archie offer, but I feel like he's going to Kentucky.
Yeah, he's North Carolina, so he's somewhat close. He's at least seen it with some of those rivalries. But then you go to Jameis Ramsey that we just talked about. It depends on where you look, because Matt saw that it was going towards Indiana at some point, but then you ask other people and you see, no, he's not really trending towards Indiana. His is going to be kind of in the air. I think from what I've gathered, from what I've gathered, it's going to be, he's not going to commit anytime soon. So
no, he's one of those national guys, because he's from Texas, but he plays his high school basketball in Florida. So he's really not attached to a state. He just kind of wants to go to a school. At least IMG Academy is an Adidas school. So, or is an Adidas, are they Adidas? I don't know, but he's an Adidas athlete. So he's probably going to choose an Adidas school. So.
Yeah. And then you got Anthony Harris, who is a guy I am very, very interested in. First of all, they just offered him. So
yeah, they did.
There are not a lot of, it's not going to feel like IU's in the running yet because they just offered him. But he's a guy that goes to Paul VI school, which is 10 minutes from my house. So even if he goes to IU if he commits, I can actually watch him play next year, which would be pretty cool. But yeah, Anthony Harris, which is a guy that's it's another combo guard, which would be great if IU could get someone. Maybe like if DJ Carton again doesn't come here, that's a guy I think Archie wants to get a lot more heavily involved with. Maybe I think DJ is his main target, but if not, I think Anthony's a great guy, ranked 60th nationally, so he's a guy that's pretty highly up there. It would be a guy that's technically he's ranked higher than Rob Finney too, so that'd be a great guy to get. And then we've got Armand Franklin from Cathedral in Indianapolis, which is a guy that's actually pretty interested in IU.
I really like his game. If we don't get one of the 5-star guards, I really want him. Like out of all the people, I mean, I don't know enough about Anthony Harris. We just offered him. I'd have to look at his game. But if we got anybody else, none of the 5-star guys, and not Jameis, who's like a borderline 5-star guy. If we don't get those 3, which the 3 are Kira Lewis, DJ Carton, and Jameis. If we don't get those 3, I think my 4th that I'd want is Armand Franklin. I think he's got some game, and he can play the 2, which we're going to be missing because Romeo's obviously going to be leaving after 1 year. So
yeah. All right, so we'll do small power forwards, those kind of people. So we got Keon Brooks, obviously. You got Trace Jackson Davis. We'll put him in there, even though he's technically a center. But Trace Jackson, Keon, we'll put Matthew Hurt there, Trendon Watford, and Zeke Naji, which is not a guy that he's the only guy. I wanted to make this point too, actually. He's the only guy, I forget, I should go back and check to see who offered him, but he's the only guy out of all of the people IU has offered that is outside of the top 100. The only person.
He's on the verge of being in the top 100, though.
Yeah, right now he's at 178th.
No, he's not. If you go on the 24/7 actual, he's 27th.
Okay, so yeah, I guess yeah. So there's another example of how weird those get. But IU has not really been as focused on him, especially with a lot of these other guys that are big guys, and we've got a lot more stock into. But before we get into the centers specifically, if you had to pick out of all the people we've already talked about, if you had to pick, so our projected class size is obviously 3, maybe 4, but probably about 3 people. If you had to pick 3 people out of all these recruits, who would be the 3 people you would love to see come to IU in a perfect world?
DJ Carton, Keon Brooks, Trace Jackson Davis.
I think I would have to agree. The only person I might supplement is maybe someone like Matthew Hurt, just because he's that good. He's ranked even just a little higher than Romeo was. Or
yeah, but we need a guard.
Yeah, so, that was that. No, I mean like replacing Keon. So or adding, yeah, instead of Keon. And in a perfect world, Isaiah Stewart, which we're going to talk about in a second, with a center, just because it's been a very long time since IU has had a big, highly ranked center. But any with the power forwards and small forwards, any new news basically?
We offered Zeke Nnaji, who's obviously blown up. He was 178th, I think, like a month ago, and he's up to 27th in the recruiting rankings. Like, he's blown up a lot since he's been on AAU. He's a 6'10" power forward. He's a stretch 5. So he says power forward, but the only reason it says power forward is because he can shoot the 3. So the fact that we offered him, and then we also got a grad transfer like Evan Fitzner, shows I think I see what Archie's trying to do with that center position, which is really interesting. Zeke has he's got a great motor. So not only does he get out to 3-point line, but he's also banging down low for rebounds. So I really like his game. He's a little skinny for 6'10". Like, he's 6'10", 215, which is like a twig. So he can put some weight on, but that
Clifton Moore.
Right. He's just so skinny. But that being said, I'm sure he's a little bit bigger than that, because those measurements were probably before the summer started. So. Yeah.
The only thing about those guys that I have heard, and it's nothing set in stone at all, the only thing I've heard is that Trendon has been trending downward from IU. I have heard that he has not been getting close. Obviously, a lot of this is just speculation, but that is what at least the buzz has been in the past few weeks.
And I mean, Memphis is doing a great job of recruiting him, and I think Mike Miller has had a big influence on him. I think he's also, according to I think it was some article on 24/7, he was trying to recruit Matthew Hurt to go play at Memphis. So who knows?
Yeah. All right. Centers. Do you know the last time that IU has gotten basically like a top 10 national player that has been a center?
Not Cody Zeller.
Yeah, because he was technically a power forward, I guess. I mean, I kind of lump him in as a center, but not even Cody Zeller. And it has been it's been decades, at least, since IU has gotten a top 10 center that has been.
Oh God, I can't tell you. Who is it?
No, I'm saying it has been decades.
Like, who was it?
There hasn't been someone. That's what I was saying. There has not been even one person.
Answer for me if you ask a rhetorical question like that.
Well, that's an answer. It just means no one.
Fine. But
unless you put Cody Zeller on there, which I'm inclined to put Cody Zeller on there. But right now, IU is in the running for a few centers. They did offer James Wiseman, which is the #1 player in everything right now. National ranking #1, position #1, state #1, all of the above. The #1 recruit. He's not the IU is not really in it.
He's a Tom Crean offer, and
Yeah.
Archie hasn't really reached out to him. I've been following his recruitment because his recruitment's kind of fun, especially since it's Memphis versus John Calipari. And if you know anything about John Calipari in Memphis, you know that that's a very interesting. So I've been following him pretty closely. He seems to be leaning more towards Memphis, but it's all speculation at this point.
Yep. Again. Yep. And then, but the one guy that we actually have been has been trending upward is Isaiah Stewart, who went to La Lumiere School in LaPorte, Indiana. So you got all the way up on the northern side, but he's ranked 7th nationally, 2nd at his position, so just under James for pure centers. And it has been trending pretty nicely for IU. Maybe not necessarily that we think he's going to come here, but it's been trending pretty nicely for him.
Yeah, he's a beast. He's really good. And there's an interesting connection with him and Thomas Bryant, who, as you know, was a 5-star center that went to IU. We all love Thomas because Thomas is the best. Him and Isaiah Stewart are from the same part of New York. Isaiah then went to La Lumiere, as La Lumiere is a boarding school in Indiana, and they are pretty close. So I'm just saying, if he comes to Indiana, we can thank Thomas for at least helping us out a bit.
Mm-hmm. And he's a higher ranked recruit than Thomas was coming in.
Yes.
He's a little small for a center, but he's a big guy and he's a big center.
It says he's 6'8", but he's 6'8" without shoes.
Yeah.
when he's in shoes, he's 6'10".
Yeah, it's like KD being on some sites being said he's like 6'8" or 6'7" or something like that, and it's like
if he's 6'7", I'm 6'6".
Yeah. So all right, and then there's Aiden. I don't know how to say his last name. Have you heard anything about him?
Aiden Egahorn. He's from Lawrence Woodmere Academy in Woodmere, New York. He was a Tom Crean offer, but Archie has kept up with him. And he plays for the Renaissance, I believe, in the EYBL circuit for AAU. And he's a big, very athletic guy. I think that's all I can say. He's just big.
Yeah. And then the only last center that IU has offered is Coffee Cockburn, which has been a recent offer. But
also Trace Jackson Davis, but we know Trace Jackson Davis.
Yeah, we talked about him a little bit. Coffee, guy that was offered just a little recently, 6'11", 248 pounds, nationals 32 ranking, and so he's a big dude. Hasn't been. No one's really trending in his way right now. He's kind of just had a bunch of offers recently. He's kind of not exploded because he is pretty high up on the national rankings, but he's just got a lot more interest, I guess, as of a lot of teams, a lot of schools recently. So can't say one way or another with Coffee at the moment.
Yeah, a lot of these guys that we've offered, again, they're 5 stars or verging on 5-star recruits. And it's a lot different their recruitment is a lot different than the local guys. If they're not from Indiana, like the Trace Jackson Davises and the Keon Brooks, it's a lot harder to keep track of them because you could be in New York and be offered by Florida, USC, and Oregon, and all of which are great basketball schools. So, and they're going to give them the time of day that they're needed. So it's not going to be like, oh, he's offered by Purdue and Indiana and Michigan. So those are local recruiting battles compared to Oregon versus Georgia versus Oklahoma versus, Marquette. It's just it's a weirder, different recruitment.
Yeah. Do you have any last thoughts out of not just the centers, but just everyone in general?
I think obviously our top targets are the in-state guys because we're doing the in-state recruiting, the inside-out recruiting style that Archie has been talking about. So Trace Jackson Davis, Keon Brooks, and then I believe that if we don't get DJ Carton, Kira Lewis, or Jameis, I think then we're looking at Armand Franklin as our guard from this class. So I think
Armand is pretty high up on there.
I think when the dominoes fall, I think we do get Trace Jackson Davis, even though he's said that he's open to his recruitment. But as everybody knows, that can just mean he likes people talking to him because it makes him feel good. Which I'm sure if I was a basketball player, I'd do the same exact thing because I would love for Tom Izzo to come knocking on my door and be like, Matt.
In high school.
Yeah, in high school. Matt, we need you. I'd be like, you're going to make me cry.
Oh, my gosh.
But, yeah, no. So Trace, I really feel like he's going to come to IU. Also, it helps that he's like not in love. He not worships. He really likes Romeo. Okay, like they're really close. So, and I think it helps that Romeo picked IU because he can go, look, Romeo did it. I can do it too. And then he'll bring Keon with him, obviously, because they're not obviously, but because they're AAU teammates. I think it makes it a lot easier to be like, hey, we play together. Wouldn't it be fun to play in college? And Keon goes, I do like playing for Indiana. I've always wondered about playing for them. And I get to play with you, and Archie's my coach. Okay. And then those two are on the team, and then DJ goes, you know what? I really want to play with those guys. I'm going to go there with the 2 5-stars and Coach Miller, and then we've got 3 5-stars coming to IU next year. So if I had early predictions, that's what's going to happen.
I'm glad I started out the show by asking you your monologue because that has been your theme for this episode.
I'm sorry, I like to hear myself talk.
Yeah, I echo everything you said, and I would just like to add that if we ended up getting DJ and Keon, we would be stealing DJ from Michigan and stealing Keon from Michigan State, which would also just make everything oh so sweeter. And last thought, as much as we would love just Isaiah Stewart, looks almost like that cherry on top kind of pick again. Just look at, if you want to look at how many people have offered him, 42 other schools have offered him.
Yeah, he's good.
He's
good. He's one of those national guys. It's going to be really hard to tell where he's going to go because he goes to a boarding school and not your normal, I don't know, like high school. So he's from New York, goes to school in Indiana. So he's just all over the place.
Mm-hmm. But keep an eye out. I did tweet, and I'll probably pin it just to make sure that people can see it again. I did tweet out last year's schedule with when all of the incoming freshmen committed, and it was basically the second week of July when there was a recruiting period and we had a bunch of people come in. So I think just to tide us until then, hopefully that's why we did this episode, but don't expect anything for a little less than a month, I would say, in terms of recruiting. Obviously, if there is one, Matt and I might even hop on for an emergency episode, but that probably won't happen in the few weeks.
If there's 3, I'm going to run around Bloomington with my underwear on.
Gosh. The amount of things Matt has said this episode, I need to go back and record these snippets to play later.
Have the assembly call, you have the tidbits and just play them. Yeah.
I think we've gone off the rails way too far right now. I'm going to wrap that up for our 41st episode of the Hoosier Sound. Thank you all so much for joining us. If you've made it this far, stay tuned through updates on Twitter at the Hoosier Sound, Facebook, and subscribe to us on YouTube. And check it out. Really visit us at our website, the new and updated thehoosiersound.com, to find all of our information regarding our podcast. As always, send us your questions as the audience. As you've seen today, we do read them on air. So be sure to comment, chat, or send us a message at contact@thehoosiersound.com on what questions you have, and we'll get them on our next episode. Lastly, if you enjoy the show, leave us a review, tell a friend, share our links. It really helps so that we can grow this podcast. But as always, thank you for listening, Hoosier Nation, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.